everyone. Welcome to another session of mentoring. And this mentoring session in Meadow, we have the honor of rejoining Clinton Sparks, who was our guest speaker a couple weeks ago. Clinton Sparks, how you doing, man?
I'm doing we need some applause. Uh I, s- I should have hit the applause. I'm doing good. Uh to be honest, I'm a little surprised, although Metal did a phenomenal job sending over the information that I was supposed to brief before this. Until about 10 seconds ago, I didn't know that I was the guy giving out game on this call.
Oh no, 100%, 100%. I don't know if you remember what Ken normally does is when we interview or we get a brief introduction to people on our Metal Saturdays, is that we always he certain people that resonate with the group, he'll ask them to come back and spend a full hour with us, where we get to have one-on-one time. And obviously here you have some phenomenal people of Metal that have joined us. Would love to hear more about your journey. And so just so I make sure everyone understands, feel free to ask any questions, guys. This is an open session. You've got Clinton Sparks for exactly 51 minutes. And I have to stay to that time because I don't like to ever impose on people. And in currently in the room, we've got a couple of musicians here from we've got James Golding, we've got Harry, who also works in entertainment, CK, who he's just one of them Zen people that music, regardless whether you think he's in music or not in music, he's in music. His whole life.
CK looks like he's taking an enjoyable kayak ride down the river right now.
We got DJ Harak up there that I don't understand why he's got his camera off, and David said he has to have his camera off because he's running around and about. And of course, we got producer Sammy coming in to us from Bali. She's been there for 4 days, so you've had a chance to speak with her. Clinton, I'm going to go back. There's nothing like starting from the beginning. And I think one thing that I found interesting in doing a little digging in was that you were that guy that would look at things from all sorts of angles. So, but let's start back from your early days. What was it about you that you think growing up that you said, I'm going to try to do something different?
Um, I don't know if I thought to myself, I'm going to do something different. I think it was a matter of survival. And I think that I just found what uh, was passionate to me and just, uh, it's a long story, man. And
No,
no one wants to sit here and hear my whole story.
no, no,
So
take your time because it's in these stories that we actually be able to relate and also
yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, if you're gonna listen to somebody, you want to know where they came from. Otherwise, you're like, why am I listening to this dude? He guy could be a shithead, right? But like, um, but yeah. So in a nutshell, grew up alcoholic father, left us. Mother had two jobs. Was a very lonely kid. Bullied when I was young. Sexually abused for many years. Was homeless at one point. Um, yeah, and I just was just this white kid from Boston that really loved hip hop and somehow, some way was able to turn myself into a great success at a time when hip hop was black in New York and I was white in Boston and like the complete opposite on every aspect. So yeah, it was really just kind of dope always overrules everything else. So, and when I say that, I mean, from your skill to your talent to your personality to your communication to your follow through to your drive. That's what I mean by being dope. So I never took no for an answer. In fact, there's a quote in my book. I got a new book out, How to Win Big in the Music Business. Damon John wrote the forward. Um, there's a quote in there that says like, well, other people would imagine making it in the music business. I couldn't imagine not. So that's kind of almost been my mentality my whole life, where I've never set a goal that I haven't achieved. It just doesn't happen. So if if I want to open up a big e-commerce store and be successful, I'm going to do it. If I want to build my own syndicated radio show, I did it. If I want to produce for the biggest names in the world, I did it. If I want to travel the world, I did it. If I want to be on television and be a host on E News in 5 years, I did it. I want to start my own esports and gaming lifestyle gaming brand and become the number one brand in the world, I did it. You know what I mean? So it's like every time I say, all right, this is what I'm going to do next, I just focus and make the plan. I stay committed and focused on that plan. But one of the things I always tell people when building a plan, if you don't plan on failure, then you didn't really make a suitable plan, because if you don't plan for failure, then you don't know how to prepare for it when it happens. So, I've always been in being able to pivot. The reason I've been able to succeed and continue, like if I was stock, I was continually going up for the past 20 years, is because I understand the art of knowing when and how to pivot. But that's just, that's one part of attributing to my success. It's also being very self-aware. It's also being empathetic. It's also understanding different personalities, psychologies, demographics, cultures, and really paying attention. That's somebody since, and I think that has to do with when I was a kid, when I was being sexually molested. Um, I, when I look back now, because at the time, obviously, you don't even know, is this bad? Like, should this not be happening? You know what I mean? So, like, when you get older and you get a grown up mind and you look back at things that you can now put into a grown man's perspective, um, I really attribute that to my beginnings of having empathy. And what I mean by that is, I would actually sit and think to myself, like, why does this guy do this? Um, Instead of like, why me? How come I'm being, this happening to me? I wondered what happened to him that made him become that. And then even more so, another really point in my life where I figured out, in my opinion, the key to life was my dad left when I was like 4. He was an alcoholic and he's a shithead and he left. And then my mom at 15 sent me to my dad's. And I grew up in the city and I was always like the only white kid in my neighborhood. Um, uh, and my dad wasn't around. So I started getting into crime, and I would like rob houses and steal cars and, stick people up. Like, and I'm not proud of any of that stuff. It's why I never talked about it during my come up. Cause especially in hip hop, I could have like, man, I robbed these 2 dudes and I could have got stripes. You know what I mean? But like that shit isn't cool. Like, I don't want to talk about that shit, and people that are out here saying, yo, I just did this to that guy. Like, 1, you're an idiot. Why would you want to hurt somebody? And then 2, why do you want to brag about it? And then 3, why do you want to incriminate yourself? Right. So like, I never understood that. And I always did my dirt by my lonely. It wasn't like I did it to be cool. I did it to like show off to friends or even got my friends involved. I was a real legit criminal to the point that, and I'll come back to the turning point that I was about to say, but like to the point that I was the day before robbing a bank, right? Like I was so into being a criminal when I was young that I seen the movie Heat, and
Yeah.
I thought to myself, holy shit, like I'm one of these guys that are like known as a crew. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to be a career criminal like these guys. And I
Yeah.
was like, I don't want to, this is whack. I don't want, because you don't even realize like that's the road you're going down. You know what I mean? It's like when you're a kid, if your mom if dad feeds you shitty food, you don't even realize it's bad back when we were all kids. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, that's what you're supposed to eat. Super greasy food with tons of butter on your mashed potatoes where it's dripping down the side and that's normal. You know what I mean? But, back to the point of, so yeah. So anyways, the bank thing, the day before we was staking it out for 2 weeks. And the day before we did, I was like, I had an epiphany. I was like, I could like ruin my entire life tomorrow. So I backed out. Those guys ended up getting away with it, by the way. But anyway, so what ended up happening was my mom sent me to my dad because she was sick of getting me from the police station, and I finally went to go live with my dad for the first time. And a bunch of unique things happened in that process. I got sent to the suburbs, which was really my first kind of taste of like what I used to say as a kid, like white life. Like I never seen a white family like in their normal habitat before. So it was, and I was like, oh, the dad has a job, owns a construction company. The mom drives in a Pop Warner football on the weekdays, and they all hang out and have a good time on Saturdays at their house while driving 4-wheelers. Like, what the fuck? What is that? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So I went out there, and in my mind, the suburbs was full of like headbangers and hicks. All they listened to was like heavy metal music. You know what I mean? And here I'm coming from breakdancing and wearing Adidas tracksuits in the city. You know what I mean? So when I moved out there was a big culture shock there. It was also my dad was also an alcoholic, so I had to deal with that. Um, but it was the greatest thing that's ever happened to me in my life, because as much as I resisted it, that was the beginning of making me really building the well-rounded person that I have become, to understand different psychologies and different personalities and demographics and stuff. Because even then I'd wonder like, man, why do all the white kids always want to fight the black kids? Right. And I used to always wonder that all the time when I was a kid. But back to the moment of the key to life thing I was going to say. So my mom sent me to my dad. I lived with him for several years throughout high school, and there was one line he would say to me that would piss me off when I'd get in trouble, because even though I wasn't being as much of a criminal as I was back in the city, I was still getting in trouble at school. He would say this line: "I didn't raise you that way," and I'd be like, "You didn't fucking raise me, Dad," right? And so, like, we would kind of go at it. Now, my dad's a tough prick. Like, my dad could beat all of us up at once, right? Like, he's that guy. His fists are like cinder blocks. He's got all the anger of like Vietnam, and his mom like molested him when he was young. His dad used to beat him. Like, that guy's got so much fucking anger. Um, so he's the kind of guy when he just like looks up, you're like, I'm out of here. He's getting so anyways, he would say that to me, and I'd be like, Dad, you know something? If you just didn't say that line to me, we would be cool, man. But it really pisses me off. And then he'd get mad that I didn't consider him raising me, because I don't know, maybe like 3 or 4 times he picked me up in his taxi and drove me around when he was drunk. Maybe in his mind, like, he did raise me. So we had the big kind of like father-son fight at 18. And the powerful lines in that argument were me saying, "I'm going to be a way fucking better father than you." And his response saying, "Yeah, you'll see, Clinton. Life happens. We'll see." Right. So fuck that dude. I didn't talk to him for 3 years. So then 3 years went by, and I started thinking to myself, I want to have a relationship with my dad. I'm sad that he's not in my life. I wonder what happened. What happened was I started wondering what happened to him that didn't allow him to be the man that I needed him to be when he was young. So when I cared enough to look into that, then I did realize the things I just mentioned, that his dad would beat the shit out of him because he was an alcoholic. His mother literally would molest him, and then he gets sent to Vietnam. So how can I expect that dude at 24 years old to be a good dad? You know what I mean? Like, he's got no guidance, no nothing. The guy's fucked up. And then he never even drank before Vietnam. He comes back a full-blown alcoholic. So, so when I realized that, my resentment turned into empathy. And my empathy made me go to my father and then basically open up my arms and say, I understand who you are, and I'm sorry for your past. Let's get past that together and build a strong relationship. And that's what we did. So we started doing that at like 21. So
That's, first of all, thank you for sharing it and being open and honest with us. That's a hard thing to even at 21 to come to. I mean, me personally, I had my aha moment with my father at 35, and I realized I was just an ass to my dad. I really thought I was better than him, and I didn't realize the reason he was wearing the same clothes every day was so I could have the things that he didn't have.
yeah.
And I used to just, honestly, I was a brat. I grew up a brat, and I see where you're coming from, and I think one of the things I'm going to open up the floor because I know there are people who are asking questions, but one of the things that I found interesting in your one of your clips was that you said you were the guy that sat eating a bowl of cereal and you would watch commercials and wonder like, I wonder why they don't do this and this. Like,
So what you're referring to is when I was a kid, and again, you don't know it at the time that you're like marketing. You just grow up and you look back at it. I remember when I was a kid, I'd be eating Eggo waffles with like Aunt Jemima or, Vermont syrup. And I remember saying to my mom, like, Mom, why doesn't Eggo make syrup too so they can just lock down the whole breakfast experience? Right? And she'd be like, I don't know, Clint, shut up and eat your breakfast. And then I remember when we were kids too, it was like, Reese's peanut butter cup used to brag about how sensational the peanut butter was inside the peanut butter cup. And I'm like, why don't they put it in a jar like Skippy and Jif? She's like, I don't know, Clint, shut up and eat your, you know what I mean? So like, I'd sit in the back of my mom's car and I would analyze billboards. I'd watch commercials. And since as far as I can remember, I'd always like think, they missed the mark. Oh, they didn't really get the message across right. So from early on, I've been honing my marketing skills, which has helped me be able to build multiple multi-million-dollar businesses, grow brands, help make some of the biggest stars in the world today, just helping to navigate and understand. And even today, like I've had two calls with I had a call with two billionaires today that are starting off, that have some big business ventures. And like, It's funny, man, because like this may sound weird, you know, and I first of all, I don't even like telling the story about myself because I'm the kind of guy. It's like everybody's got a fucking pass on a story. Who the fuck wants to hear mine, right? So that's kind of like, and maybe that's a Boston thing. Maybe it's an insecurity thing. Maybe it's, you know, because I never felt love growing up, so I never felt like I mattered, right? But it's amazing, like, and I'm just coming into this now, these past like 3 years, of realizing how much value I do have to give. Prior to that, I thought everybody thought like me. And I thought everybody knew the answers to like how to do dope shit. So when I would see people like not doing it right, I'm like, why don't they just do this, this, and that, right? And it was like there's a scene in Good Will Hunting. If you guys have seen the movie Good Will Hunting, uh, there's a scene where Matt Damon's sitting across from the professor that was got him out of jail, and he gave him like an essay or something, and the professor's reading. He's like, "Hey, have you thought about?" And Matt Damon's like, "Yeah, it's in there." He goes, "Well, did you think about?" And he goes, "Yeah, it's in there too." He's like, "How about this?" And he looks over and he goes, "You know what it's like to watch you guys fucking fumble around with this shit when it comes so easy to me? That's what life is to me." You know what I mean? And like, life is so easy. People make it difficult. From personalities and the lack of self-awareness, the lack of emotional, intelligence to just, you know, I can go on and on and on about this and what I
No,
see every day. And it's so frustrating when I'm like in between negotiations or even within a company when the CEO doesn't understand the CFO and the CFO doesn't understand the CRO. And then the employees, no one understands the employees fucking hate the CEO and he doesn't even understand that because he thinks he's awesome. And like, it's just, I see it all the time. And it's crazy how much lack of self-awareness people have, and and just just being able to understand your weaknesses is almost more important than understanding your strengths. But people are more focused on bragging and focusing and telling people how awesome they are at the things that they think that they're good at, and some of them aren't even good, but they think they are. That they never take the time to wonder, like, you know what? I do suck at organization. I'm not that good at communicating. I don't really have strategy, and you know what? Maybe I was cool 20 years ago, but I'm not now. And I need to let go of the fact of my poke high stories like Al Bundy talking about football because I'm not dope at football anymore. And if my 45-year-old mind could see that it's not 25 anymore, then maybe I'd get out of my own way and stop acting like I can go out in the field and play like a 25-year-old. And the same applies to culture, psychology, understanding branding and marketing. It's different. Don't tell me about something that you did 20 years ago because the world is fucking different, man. And you don't know the hot shit that's going on now. So you got to listen to these people that do know because and at the end of the day, they're going to help you look better and help your company. So what's the threat? And I'm getting worked up about it because I've worked for three
no.
CEOs that are just like shitbags, man. And it's like I've watched them tank the company that could have went on to become amazing, right? One of them, like Tim Draper, came on as the lead investor at one. I became the president of that company. I spend more time talking to employees about fixing dumb shit he was doing. And every single night I'd spend 3 hours in his house telling him how to stop lying, stop exaggerating, stop treating people bad, stop talking down to people. Like he would literally go on like, I don't know, Fast Money and stuff. And he'd be like, yeah, we're doing this, 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 and that. And I'm sitting watching like, no, the fuck, we're not. Why is he saying this? Like, we're already dope. You don't have to lie. Like, all you're gonna by your lying, it hides the fact of the good things you are doing. And if they find out the whack shit you're doing, it already now negates anything good that you're doing. So, I've done that. I just did it with my last company. I just took a company from zero to $240 million in valuation. The company is awesome. I was super proud and excited to do it. I did some fascinating things that I'm really proud of that got a lot of press. What people don't know is what went on behind the scenes and how much I had to fight every single step that was for the good of the company because the CEO doesn't have a strategic bone in his body. He wants to get all the fame and he thinks that like just riding the wave of popularity that the company had is good enough. And like I bring the biggest life-changing opportunities to the table. Anybody on this call would sit and say, that's a no-brainer. Why didn't they do that? And I'd be like, yeah,
I
go
think
figure.
I think
Right?
that's
So
one of the things that's one of the things you say, Clinton, is that your biggest frustration that you have come across is that you spend most of your time arguing over something you clearly see and can define as not only an opportunity, but the correct path for whatever it is that you're a part of.
well, I wouldn't say arguing because I don't argue. I
Okay,
try
well,
to convey
the,
why it's the best move. And I'm not just giving my opinion, by the way,
sure.
guys. Like when I come in and tell you why this will work, I'll show you the I'll show you facts and data on what was this, what was that, where we are, where we need to go, who's doing what. Like I'll make it such a no-brainer that you're like, yeah, whatever you say, let's do it. You know what I mean? But like, if somebody with some intelligence, but somebody like that guy, and I'm literally watching him nosedive a company that I just bring that big. But I left the ship and started my own esports and gaming lifestyle brand, and currently we're the fastest growing gaming team in the world. Because we added a bunch of the stuff that I said, and we're doing partnerships like I talked about. And one of the things in particular with that company, I could give you 40 stories, but one is like I bought one of the biggest rappers in the world into that company as an investor.
Yeah.
It took me, his name is Offset. And it took me 5 months to make them understand. Because first of all, I understand the business side, and then I understand the hood side. I understand the street side because I'm from the street, right? So I understand how to talk all the languages, and I understand what they don't understand about each other, and then I understand how to translate to each other so I can regulate their emotions and their egos, right? Because you know what I mean? Are you gonna listen to this fucking guy? He never did what I did. You know how many companies I sold? Blah 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 blah. It's like, all right, dude, relax. And then this guy, yo, man, they're over here trying to own me and tell me what to do, man. You know what the fuck? So like, I have to be the guy that understands what they're all feeling, right? And then how to talk to them all so that they don't get worked up over the other person's inability to understand what they're doing. I lost my train of thought when
No,
I see
no,
the
no.
good-looking guy named Ken come on.
No, it's all right. But this is it's one of those things, your ability to see things. We were talking about how hard it is or difficult it was sometimes, your frustration in conveying to them something that is so simple, something that you can clearly see. Again, in this case, you also back it up with facts, but it seems that somebody doesn't want to proceed with it because it's A, not their idea, or B, they're just a gatekeeper for free. For
Well,
whatever.
and also in this case, like he became CEO by circumstance, right? It wasn't by skill, it wasn't by merit, and it wasn't from, he deserved the position.
Right. Gotcha.
So I look at it like, a lot of times people, to be great, they feel like they need to make other people not be great. It's kind of like the winner loser mentality, right? And I've always applied to by helping other people be great is being great.
Right.
And people like CEOs like that. Look, if you're going to be a great number one, you have to know how to be a fantastic number two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10. You know what I mean? And that's how I look at it. Like you can't, in any world, if a rich guy that was never broke will never understand how to think like a broke guy, and a broke guy that was never rich will never know how to think like a rich guy. I've been both, back and forth. You know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? So I understand. So when you have somebody on your team that has these superpowers that you don't have, Superman doesn't get mad that he can't talk to fish. He just says, Aquaman, can you jump down there and talk to the sharks for us so we can figure out what's going on? You know what I mean? So it's like, that's what teamwork is. But when you want to act like you have all the superpowers, when we know you don't, and we know you don't, you're not a good leader. You're not a good CEO. You need to know how to get the best out of your employees, because at the end of the day, it makes you look like a superstar. You're the CEO. And at the end of the day, it helps your company win. Stop being a dicktard and being pissed off that some other person is getting the shine that you feel like you deserve. And that's what would happen too. There would be people that would call and be like, "Hey, we want to interview Clinton Sparks because we see he's at the intersection of music and gaming." And
Did you say dicktard?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Man.
hi, Ken. He did say dictard.
So I'm like, sorry, I'm bringing back my '80s John Hughes words.
I love it, dicktard.
But yeah, man, like, anyways.
No, I
Back to you, Mighty Paul.
I'm gonna open up the floor. I'm going to first go to Rick, and then I'll come to you, CK. Rick, you had a question that you wanted to ask Clinton.
Yeah, it's as you were talking, actually, I had this image of you in a movie. Your story is like a movie. And
was it on Pornhub?
Well, actually, when you started talking about superheroes, I was thinking, what about a superhero called Captain Pivot? Because you've pivoted so many times. But the question is, when people pivot, sometimes you pivot because you have to pivot. And there's sometimes where it's much more optional. And your earliest experience of having to pivot as being sexually abused is very unusual. I mean, most people who get sexually abused tend to fall into the victim role, which you clearly didn't. So I'm just wondering, this is, dovetailing on what CK was saying, what's your X factor? Because that's very unusual. I mean, you're an incredibly curious person. And where did you get those genes from? You know?
Certainly not my dad. Motherfucker didn't buy me no jeans.
Because you've got some innate abilities there, right?
Well, you know, I think so, Rick. I think one of the things that I've done early on is when I started kind of becoming Clinton Sparks, kind of like the musical guy, right? When I realized I was going to start going. So the reason that even happened is, you know, during my teenagers when I was a criminal, as I just described, I was also a overachieving worker. So I'd work at warehouses, moving companies, shoveling snow. As soon as the snow hit the ground, I was out in the street shoveling everyone's walkway so I can make money, right? So I've always went hard at whatever I did, even when I was a criminal. That's why I was awesome at being a criminal. But when I decided that, you know, like I told you guys the bank story, what happened is I got a job when I decided not to do that bank thing with my buddies. I looked in the back of the paper and seen UPS was hiring. I also took the test for the IBEW, which is the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. So I got the same day I got accepted to the electrical union, I also got offered the job at UPS. So I waited out and I was like, UPS pays you this much right away. You get full benefits like 2 months in. Over here, it's going to take me 5 years to try to get to making any money because you got to be a journeyman and all these other things. But I like the idea of brotherhood because I never really had family or friends growing up. So that was the only reason why I even wanted to join that, because I thought it'd be awesome to play hockey with other kids in Dorchester. So I took this job because it was a faster path to getting to success in my mind. But when I was working there for 3 years, I ended up carrying an 85-pound package up some stairs. They collapsed and I ended up getting spinal surgery. When I got spinal surgery, I was like, holy shit, I can't do hard labor anymore. I didn't even graduate high school. What am I going to do? So for the past 5-6 years, I was a rapper, a dancer, a producer. I'm winning all the talent shows in Boston. I'm producing all the local artists. So I'm like, I have to make this music thing a real thing. It can't just be a hobby anymore. So that's what I did. I just focused on, like I said earlier, I just made the plan, I committed to it, and I focused on it. And I didn't understand, I didn't understand that I was naive to the fact that it might not work. You know what I mean? I'm just like, there's no way this won't work. So then the reason I'm able to kind of pivot and not really be emotionally charged by things is because early on, when I did start building my brand, the brand of Clinton Sparks, look, everyone calls himself a brand now, but when I was doing it 20 years ago, everybody laughed at me. They're like, what do you mean you're a brand? Like literally people would frown on all the time. And the reason I did that is because I wanted to separate myself, the Clinton Sparks guy, from the brand Clinton Sparks, so I could detach all emotion. So I made myself basically the CEO of Clinton Sparks. Therefore, if somebody hates something that I'm doing, I don't take it personally. I look at it as like market research for the company I run. If somebody says something great, it never goes to my head and I never think, people love me. Like, I'm just like, great, I'm doing a good job. I need to do more of that. So that's kind of like the mentality I had since I was young. The other mentality as it relates to, being molested at young is the reason why I never really played the victim role, even though I was obviously a victim, but I didn't carry it with me because it wasn't my fault.
Yeah,
so
right.
Why would I hold on this backpack of pain or trauma for something that I didn't do? It wasn't my fault. Like that dude should be carrying around the pain of hurting some kid. You know what I mean? I need to just get past this shit and move on. It happened yesterday. Now I got to go make a new tomorrow.
Yeah, but that's very.
And I actually apply that same thing to even wins. When I win, I could raise $1 million today, tomorrow, even 2 hours after that. It's like I didn't even do anything. So I don't know if that's a gift or a curse, because I'm never complacent, right? So the bad part of that is I never know how to turn off and I never know how to relax. The good part of it is if I work with you or for you, this motherfucker's going out here and beasting the game. And that's what I do every day.
Clinton, I think that's a great advice for anybody in this room listening who's getting a chance to listen to this, is the ability to make yourself in charge of your brand or how you present yourself to the world. That gives you room to step aside from anything and not to, like you said, take it with you. Because I think a lot of us entrepreneurs and a lot of us creatives, sometimes we're our biggest critic because that's just the way we operate. I'm going to go over to CK. CK, you had a couple questions, and then I'll come. Rick, sorry, was that?
No. I just wanted to follow up on one point which you didn't respond to, and I just wanted to know what you thought of the idea. But you're obviously a movie material. You know, there's a story there. I mean, you know, whether it's in a cartoon or an autobiographical movie, but it's such a remarkable story, and
Thanks,
we're
man.
only scratching the surface of it in the
Right.
sequel. So, your reactions to that idea?
Uh, well, all right. So twofold. Let me step out of the person, right? If I was looking at that guy, I'd be like, yeah, that his life is literally made for it's an 8 Mile type of story, like Eminem, right? 100%. But even more, because there's so many more things that went on than, you know, 8 Mile was just, you know, grew up with a shitty mom, shitty neighborhood, wanted to be a rapper. Black guys didn't accept him. He ended up being the best rapper in the city, you know, shits on the guys that was supposed to be great. And he goes on to be a star, right? So like, that's pretty much the point of that. Like, yeah, like you said, there's so many more layers and it's so much more robust. And it's something I've heard my whole life. Like first of all, thank you, Rick. But secondly, like I've been told for the past decade, like, bro, your life's a movie. And then there's been people in Hollywood that's actually asked me to do TV shows. And I was like, no, I don't want to do a TV. I'm not going to do a reality show. But yeah, I think it's a great story. And like, to be honest, I've already started writing it, like looking at the Clinton Sparks brand not being me. And I'll tell you what I wrote for the intro is so compelling. You would just see the first 3 minutes and be like, I got to watch this movie.
Exactly. Well, the other thing is a cartoon character too, but I'll leave that up to your creativity. I'll hand it over to somebody else.
Thanks, Rick. I'm going to head over to CK. CK.
Hey, Clinton, thanks for
Hi,
sharing.
buddy.
Thanks for sharing your story. I'm not a music guy. I'm here because I was very curious about, man, how is this guy doing it all, right? He whatever he wanted to do, he does it. And based on how you show up on this call, it kind of gave me a glimpse, because the way you show up, you're very self-aware and you have high emotional intelligence, and you're also very, very tactical. And that, in my mind, sort of is the pillars of how you become this do dope shit embodiment, right? Infinite spiritual being living a human life in its fullest potential. Would you say that's an accurate reflection of how you live your life? Because in my mind, it's very easy for you to be holier than thou, but you're not. You're superhuman, which is one thing I super appreciate about you. You real, you know who you are, and you just do dope shit all day. So I'm curious to know if that's an accurate reflection of who you are and how you do it.
Is what an accurate reflection of who I am?
Well, that you're able to basically be the full embodiment, right? Not being attached, to have to be super self-aware, to have high EQ, as well as just being super tactical. So that way allows you to do all these things.
Are you saying, do I agree that that's the definition of what I am?
Yes. An
Um,
accurate observation, or am I totally projecting, totally making shit up?
no, yeah, I would say it's pretty accurate. But again, I shy away from responding or answering things like that because I feel pompous, because all the things you just said are very flattering, right? And very like smart things to say about somebody. If I was like, yeah, totally, I'm all those awesome things. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, all right, you conceited prick. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, do I operate my life in a way that that I am aware to know that I care about people, I listen to people, I do my best to communicate. I look at life like this. If you assume responsibility for everything that goes wrong, then guess what? You have the power to fix it. Right. So instead of pushing blame on somebody else, like, well, if you listen to me, or if you stop doing that, or if you didn't do this, then, people are always looking to blame somebody else for something that goes wrong. I always look back at what did I do wrong? How can I communicate better? So like when I see people in a relationship having the same fight over and over again, whether they're business partners or, a husband and wife, and they have the same fight, they're fucking idiots. Cause it's like, dude, you already know her trigger words. You know what she doesn't like. You know how she communicates. You know how she's going to react when you convey a message like that, when you act like that. You already have all the tools to win this war. but yet you still keep going in expecting her to change her ways to appease you. When if you want to be the almighty man and the leader of this family, and you want to be a leader in just in general, then you need to assume responsibility. And that goes for your company too. So you can't say, well, if my employees would just, well, if my da 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 da, you can't have it both ways, man. You want to be the leader or do you not want to be the leader? If you can't control everybody and you don't know how to communicate, you don't know how to direct us all to the winning path, then maybe you should step down from your role. And that goes down even in a relationship. Like, think about this. And when I say this, everybody on the phone is probably going to, wow, that's a good fucking point. So like when you start dating somebody or you go on a date with somebody, right? See someone that you like, start thinking, oh, am I attracted to them? Do they make any money? Do they have a good job? Like, what's their family like? Are they funny? Is she pretty? Is that like, you think of all the things that you need to satisfy your needs and wants. You think about like, does she fulfill all the buckets that I have and requirements to make me happy? Nobody ever sits and says, am I good for her here? Do I provide this for her? Will I be able to do this when she needs me to? That no one does that. They're just selfishly looking at what's the win for me. And that's why relationships, when they get into bad places, because you didn't go from the beginning, just like a business. You didn't approach it thinking about how is there a win-win-win in here? Like how does everybody benefit? Like I have a point in my book where I say, if you feel triumphant because you were able to sell somebody on something or convince somebody to invest in something that isn't necessarily super valuable or beneficial to them, and you feel, yeah, I just did that, I'm the man, and you got them to do something that isn't really that awesome for them, that's not a great salesman, that's a con man. So, and there's a huge difference. But people are out here just trying to get the numbers and close the deals. They never sit and think about what I just sold. Is it really valuable to that person? They just want to cover their bottom line and make a sale or get their commission or look good at their job. And it's like, if you approach everything from the way that I'm saying it, you're going to do so much more better. Another chapter in my book, sell yourself before you sell what you're selling. You know what I mean? Like for instance, I can call almost anybody in the music business that I've done business with over the years because they know when I call, I'm not full of shit. They know when I call that I've already done my due diligence, so that I'm providing value or an opportunity to them that is probably something most other people couldn't even provide. So you got to put yourself in a position of being trustworthy. And that's even your personal relationships. Your wife trusts that her heart is in your hand and you ain't going to be a nitwit about it and cheat on her or talk down to her or disregard her. Same thing with companies, with the people that work for you and your employees or even your customers. It's all the same thing. When they feel like you actually give a shit, they'll accept when you make mistakes. They'll accept when you do something wrong. I can't tell you how many times in my life there's been guys that are better than me at what I do, I think, but people will hire me over and over again because they know that they're going to be someone good to deal with. They know that I'm going to over deliver. They know that I'm trustworthy. They know I mean what I say and I say what I mean. So it's like, you know what? Maybe that guy does have more followers, but this guy has more integrity. So, and they know with that integrity and that hard work and that drive, I can still make happen what that guy did, but I won't have the entitlement of that guy. And I won't be a jerk off that's like, do you know how much money I get because I have 4 million followers? I'll work for every dollar, even if I had 4 million followers. And that's the kind of drive that I have.
That's
and I implore everybody else to have that. I'd speak with.
Absolutely amazing advice. Jesus. We could just have another chapter on relationships with you. You might want to consider doing a book on relationships, buddy. Let alone do dope shit. I'm
gonna put out books like I used to put out mixtapes, and I was just looking to digitize my mixtapes, and I never even realized. If you asked me, I would have never said this number. I've done over 110 mixtapes in my life. That means I've done a mixtape a month for over 10 years, almost 10 years. I didn't even realize that, but I'm gonna start doing books the same way because I have way too much to say and way too much to share. And I see, the more that I'm out and about and talking to people, like, look. Probably, this is, what is it? 8 of us on here or 9 of us, probably 7 out of 9 of us have pain that we carried around. We have trauma from when we were little boys. You know what I mean? And that's helped shape who we are now. And maybe that's made us have some deficiencies in understanding other people, or maybe not be as great as we could be to our women or our kids or stuff like that. And I see people get stuck and kind of reach back to the past of things and blame that for why they are. But it's like, man, if you broke your leg when you were 15, do you fucking still complain about it at 32? Like, the shit was broken then. It got healed. Get over it. You know what I mean? The same thing is, okay, your dad beat the fuck out of you. Okay, you're a grown man now. Get over it. You know what I mean? Your mom was a druggie. You were molested. Nobody liked you. Like, I get it. I get it. It's fucking over. You know what I mean? Like, you keep sitting there dwelling in it. Yeah, you can use it for some motivation to do better, but don't use it as an excuse. You know, and I oftentimes see people say that. And one line that drives me crazy that I hear people say, like, is, man, I guess I'm going to start this long journey in healing. I guess I'm going to go down this long road and try to get better. It's not a fucking long road, man. It's a decision. One decision that only you can make, and you can make it right now. I am not going to be fucked up over this shit ever again. Fuck you, child molester. Fuck you, deadbeat dad. Fuck you, childhood bully. It's over. You know what I mean? Like, fucking let it go.
Genius.
Sorry.
Harry, you had a question. You had a question you wanted to ask Clinton.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. And Clinton, thank you for sharing your story with us, man. I find it so amazing on so many levels, not
Thanks for
just that it's
listening.
inspiring. And I know Paul's recording this and we put it in the portals, so many metal guys will benefit from this, but we get to ask.
Can you please refer to Paul as Mighty Paul next time? Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Mighty, Mr. Mighty Paul, the goalie. Yeah, I've got a question for you, Clinton, because I love you've referred to movies a lot in your talk here about what he did to you, and what I love how you were into marketing and advertising when you were a young kid. Just for some context, I make TV commercials. I'm a director and a camera. I call myself a filmmaker with an agenda. And advertising sort of gets a black eye, and deservedly so, because most of it sucks and is predatory. But are there any other films that come to mind, or movies or songs that influenced you, or better yet, commercials? Because I think the power of cinema. I also see, to add to CK's point, is I think you connect the dots better than the average person. The creativity and the strategy and all the other things. I see Rick shaking his head because, boy, he goes deep into this, what it takes to make human beings like you. So I'm curious to what other pop art or film has impacted you. Can you think
Probably
of
the most influential film of my life that I've watched over 100 times, that has given some context to kind of how I move, especially in business, would be a movie called Jerry Maguire. So when I was young and watched that movie and seeing how Tom Cruise was like really upset with like the dog eat dog climate of like sports agents and just the world, and was like, man, let's have more heart, man, like less money and more heart. And like, that was kind of the gist of it. Right. And then he got ousted because everyone was like, oh, he doesn't want the money, get out of here. It was kind of like, just, there was a lot of profound meaning in that movie to me, that really resonated when I was young. And then, probably like some of you guys on here too, a movie that a lot of people reference sports, which I do as well too, when you're trying to make metaphors and analogies. I reference Star Wars a lot. So that was another impacting movie from my childhood. And then all John Hughes movies.
Yeah. I was gonna say you gotta have a couple ones.
I literally was Ferris Bueller when I was in high school, in middle school.
We've got a couple more minutes before we.
I'm not in a rush. I'm not in a rush. So I don't want someone to be like, "Fuck, I wanted to ask him something." Whatever.
No. Yeah, but I'm going to stop the recording though, and we can talk. I mean, I appreciate you saying that. I wanted to come back to your e-gaming. What was the foresight thinking to yourself? Fuck it, I'm going to go start myself in my own team in the space. Was e-gaming something that was introduced to you, or was gaming something that was already part of you?
No, the business of gaming and esports wasn't something I was interested in or aiming to become a part of. What happened was my partner, Greg Zelko, who's the CEO of my company, he was also the CEO and founder of a company called Karmaloop, which was the world's biggest streetwear fashion website. It did $1 billion in sales. So like I used to run marketing over there. So we came out here to LA and we were working on building Karmaloop 2.0, like a new version of it. And then as we were raising money, he met this guy who then met these kids named FaZe Clan, who were just a bunch of popular kids that had no business structure or anything going on. And he basically bought into them. And I was there from day one. He met Greg. He's like, oh man, I need you. Greg called me. He's like, I'm in an office in Hollywood. Come here right now. I drove there, and it was literally like the boiler room. Like I walked in, everyone's running around, like they're all like selling penny stocks and like all excited about the market. And I'm like, what's going on in here? And he was like, dude, it's this thing, esports and gaming. These guys they call FaZe Clan, they're super popular online. They got, you know, tens of millions of followers. We're gonna do this now. And I was like, all right. So then I just took a week to like kind of figure out what this was. It doesn't take long for me. To be honest, this is one of my skills is I can walk into any company meeting in any industry, sit in there for 5 minutes and literally jump right in like I'm part of the conversation and know what's going on. So once I did that with gaming, I realized the unlimited potential and opportunities in this space. And then I realized this industry, I've worked the past 18 years, my brain to come to this because everything else is like, there's limitations. Like I think too big. It's like, I'm at like, you know, the movie theater trying to put on a Michael Jackson production concert. You know what I mean? So I'm the guy like, you're talking to a guy that was lowered from a helicopter through the roof onto his turntables at my grand opening in Vegas. You know what I mean? So like, that's how I think. You know what I mean? So I wanted to ride a horse onto the turntables. I had to go see if it was okay. So like, and that's how I think in business too. Like even I just had a long talk with the heads of Twitch a couple of days ago who are trying to figure out how to have a relationship with record labels so they stop getting takedown letters and they can get licensing rights and all that stuff. And I put together a whole business plan on how they can do it. And they're just too timid to move forward because they're afraid of getting in trouble. I'm like, anybody that ever wins, they throw their fucking balls on the table and they fucking prepare for the storm you're about to go through. But at the end, you know they're going to win. Look at Sean Parker. Like he had to do something so disruptive, but then guess what that did? Opened up the world to streaming. And now the music industry is winning bigger than it has been. And I go, so if you really want to knock down that door, the record labels are never going to come and say, hey, Twitch, you know, we figured out a deal on how to like give you guys our music. How about, they're never going to do that. You have to force them to come to the table. And like, yeah, it's going to cost you money in litigation. But at the end of the day, you're going to get them at the table. You're going to figure it out. You're going to pay some money. But guess what? At the end, it's going to make your company so much more bigger and thrive because music is such a heavy component. And young kids, youth culture, streaming, gaming, music performance, all that shit. You guys are over here dancing on the fringe, just trying to go lock down unsigned artists because you don't want to get in trouble from those guys. Get in trouble. That's how you're going to make it fit. You're going to change it. You have to get in trouble. And if you really want to be the big gorilla, then lead the way for everyone else and be the one that takes the first bullet. You know what I mean? Just go in with a bulletproof vest because you know you're going to have a bullet hit you.
I like that. I'm just typing that quote in. You have to get in trouble to fix it.
Look at, for example, go back to relationships. How many relationships end up getting stronger and better because you fucked up?
No, it's true.
You know what I mean?
We had,
and then what you had to do to get that back to a good place. And a lot of times, like, man, I feel like I can go on for hours about this, but like a lot of times, man, like, but it's all good. You get the gist.
We had Larry Wingett on the same week you were on, and he basically said, look, dude, enough of this bullshit. You actually have to suck at something to be able to become good at it. And that's the only way you can say you're good at something is if you failed at it.
I mean, Dave Grohl has a great quote where he's like, you know, you get in your garage, you play the guitar, you beat on the drums, you suck, and then you suck some more, and then you keep sucking, and you keep sucking, and all of a sudden you're Nirvana.
Yeah, that's genius. James, you got a question you wanted to pose for Mr. Sparks.
Clinton, thank you for taking us on this the magic roundabout roller coaster of your life. I think you're triggering off lots of things with all of us in terms of, you know, what we're doing, how we're approaching life, how we define success, and also this idea of I'm sort of sensing that what informs you is this idea of the creation of value, of creating something beautiful.
I don't mean to interrupt you. And I'm not trying to be a dick, but every time I look at Rick, he either looks like he's getting head or he's reading the Sunday paper. He's got this like...
Or both.
Unmute yourself, Rick.
I've got my feet on my desk. That's what it is.
Right.
I'm reclining
James, go ahead.
And both hands in the air, Rick. No, you didn't interrupt. That was a wonderful little commercial break there. Thank you. Clinton, with everything going on and your kind of dynamic, never stop approach to life, how do you actually decide what you're going to get involved in terms of the projects? Because you go all in. How do you decide what you're actually going to get involved in, and do you have some sort of guiding North Star that kind of identifies and informs what's of value for you in the world?
Yeah, so two things go with that. One, is it something I actually care about and I'd be passionate about, and do I know I can do a good job at it? And then two, is it part of the ecosystem of the things that I'm already doing? So I do a bunch of things, but they all kind of help each other and they all fuel each other. So it's not like I'm making pizzas over here and then changing tires over there. Two completely different industries that would take away from each other, right? So like everything I do, if I'm doing, retail, then I have an esports team that just now becomes a massive marketing tool for that retail. If I'm doing esports and stuff like that, I know that I can now inject music into that space because all those people want to do it. And I know that esports also wants to be down with musicians. So like everything that I do, it's all part of the circle of just keeping everything moving. So I don't take on things that don't make sense with the other things that I'm already doing. Like if you hit me right now and you're like, hey, I got this, I'm opening up some used storage places. And we're going to do these kind of things there. It's like, I don't think that would make sense with everything else I'm doing, and it would distract me from what I'm doing. So I'm probably going to have to pass.
So what would be the overview of the empire that you're creating? Is there some sort of overview of how all these branches and leaves and fruit kind of connect with the tree trunk of the substance of your life and foundation of your life?
The common denominator in everything I do is helping others. So, even let's just take esports, for instance, right? I'm helping kids. It's another way to get out of the hood. I'm helping them to figure out how to make a career. I'm showing them how to make money. With my team, I'm also teaching them mental, physical health. I'm teaching them financial literacy. I'm teaching them how to build a brand, how to develop themselves as a brand, how to build scalability into that. Then, that one thing helps a lot. Now I'm helping brands get more exposure. I'm helping them bring more diversity to the industry. I'm helping the industry overall by bringing more culture to it. My book and my course, for instance, like this book is free. Like I took a lot of time to write this book and I'm giving it away for free. Why? Because I care about helping people and I care about the world. Now I have other products for sale that obviously the book would hopefully incentivize you to say, oh man, this dude's so dope. I want to go get his course now. And the course is not for free. However, this isn't one of those books where like just kind of gives you the what and then makes you go buy something else to get the why, like all the other scams usually are. This, you could actually just get this free book and like, you're good. And then my radio station, I have a national hip hop radio station that I launched that has over 13 million users in distribution in Apple CarPlay, Pluto, Sonos, Google, Alexa. And that's also another opportunity where artists can get their music played in rotation right next to the biggest names in music. That doesn't exist. It never existed. And the reason I came up with that is because I was an artist that tried to get on the radio. And I know how difficult it is. You either got to know the DJ or you got to know someone that knows the DJ that you can pay him to play your shit, right? And that's really hard. So if I open up something where you can just open up your app, upload a song, pick the package you want, then I email you back what day and time your song plays, none of that's ever existed. But it's helping the independent DIY artists get to a bigger audience. It's helping, anyways, you know what I'm saying? So it's just helping on, because I do so many things, guys, right? But they all kind of got the same common denominator where it's helping other people. Like nothing I do is I own a tech company. We're in the midst of doing a deal with Dell right now. We just did a proof of concept with Comcast. We have an NBC Universal meeting tomorrow. So like even my technology is there to help companies. You know what I mean? To help them save money, to help them be more productive, to lower their technology spend. What other companies do I have? Oh, I have a esports betting app that launches next month. That's going to literally change the game. Look, there's a ton of sports betting apps out there, but they're all the same. They're all fighting for the same audience. They're all doing the same things within their app. Mine is so game changing, and it's a social sports betting app that it's like it's going to be one of a kind when it comes out. And like so, and that's to help engage people, create communities, to help people win prizes. And like it's not just about us making money, because there's a whole bunch of things that we integrated in there that's not just about the typical, like, you know, guys like us that just go on a sports betting app and lose our fucking paycheck. You know what I mean? There's a lot of cool shit going on in there where girls can just bet on who's going to win The Bachelor for prizes, not money. You know what I mean? There's a whole lot of cool shit like that. So everything that I work on is all things that, one, I can be uber creative because my mind doesn't stop thinking. So I need to be working with stuff that people are like, give us more, give us more, give us more. How can we do that? How can we do this? If it's something that stunts my my true superpower or limits me from giving my all, then I probably don't want to do anything with it either.
No, absolutely love it. Look, I'm gonna Harak, I'm gonna talk to our resident DJ, who's actually our EDM DJ slash financial guy. Harak, I know you got a question you had to ask. You got Mr. The Clinton Sparks on.
Wait, can I tell you something? I didn't even know what you just said without you saying it. Looking at him, I already knew he had something to do with. He was either an EDM DJ or he manages an EDM DJ. Like I already thought that to myself.
See? Well, he's our resident DJ. So Harak, meet Mr. Clinton Sparks.
So, buddy.
Hey, Clinton. How are you, sir?
Good. How are you?
Just to clarify, I wouldn't call it EDM, even though it is electronic music. EDM is more of your mainstream stuff. I'm more into down tempo and techno. But anyway, that's besides the point.
Yeah. Hey, to the average person, it's all EDM.
Right? Yeah, I know. It's all
I manage a producer out of Vegas. He just does like super hard trap dubsteppy music. And then you know, obviously DJ Snake, I found and discovered him. I signed him in 2007 and we made all those records together. So we've sold over 50 million records together.
Yeah, wow. That's amazing.
Did you know that I discovered Snake?
I did not. I didn't know you discovered Snake. Shit.
Oh yeah, I discovered DJ Snake and DJ
Out of
Chami.
Arizona?
Huh?
No, I said I didn't know you discovered DJ Snake.
Yeah, I found him in 2007 in a basement party in Paris, and he could hardly even speak English.
Jesus.
And then we sold platinum records together for years before we even got to Turn Down for What. Like I introduced him to Little John.
Wow.
I could tell you the whole story behind how that record came together another time too.
No, we'll come
I'd
back
love to hear it.
And the fight that they had.
I'm going to let Harak
Clint, you know, Maga Bracco? Maga Bracco danced with Snake for a long time. You know, Hunter?
Sorry, Ben, you jumped in. Give me a second, Ben. I'll come back so you can ask your question properly. In Costa Rica, I know the bandwidth ain't right, so you might need to pedal a little faster. So,
wait, will we finish the question?
Don't go on hurricane season now.
Yeah, so it really strikes me that one thing that you said, anything that kind of gets in your way of accomplishing, I forgot exactly what you said, but my question, I guess, is you don't take me as somebody that that drinks or uses any kind of substances or even like brain cognitive stuff. Like could you touch on that a little bit? Because like, for example, I go through like phases where I do like microdosing of psilocybin. It helps with a lot of things. I was just wondering if there's anything that you do, whether it's a mindful practice or if it's anything that kind of helps get you into the creative space or in a flow state.
I drink a lot of tea and water, and I've never drank alcohol my entire life, and I don't do any drugs. So no, I don't do anything other than drink a shit ton of tea, a whole lot of water, and my biggest vice used to be cookies, but like I pretty much cut them out.
That's amazing. What kind of tea?
Right now I have vanilla caramel.
Oh wow!
Speaking of tea,
that's some
like 8 years ago, I created an idea for a company called Dessert Tea, and the whole line was "Drink your favorite dessert guilt free." and I wanted to make like apple pie tea, brownie sundae tea, and I partnered up with a superstar celebrity chef, and we were going to move forward with it. And this idiot goes to what tea brand is it? It's one of the big tea brands.
Lipton.
Bigelow. I think it was Bigelow.
Bigelow.
Or something. No, not Bigelow. Another one similar.
Lipton?
Anyway, so he goes to them. He comes back. And goes,
Twinings?
yeah, I talked to my buddy. He's the CEO of this tea company. I'm like, why the fuck would you do that? And he's like, because I wanted to ask them why they never came up with something like this. And I was like, because they didn't have the idea. Now you gave it to them. Right. And he was like, no, don't worry about it. Like they said they don't have the bandwidth to do it, that they would rather someone like us do it and then they could buy it from us. Right.
Mhm.
Like 3 months later, dessert flavored tea comes out from that company.
Oh
and,
man.
and I was already like working with like flavor scientists and stuff to come up with these flavors. And I'm like, dude, and he like ruined the whole idea, man. What, by the way, you know what would be genius about that? Which by the way, they're still not going back to marketing. What they're not doing with that tea, they just put it out, here's flavored tea. There's two massive markets that you could be chasing right there that are completely separate from each other. One, the dieting market. Drink your favorite dessert guilt-free. What fucking person would, that's how I lost 40 pounds. I literally just drank tea and I'd either put vanilla or cinnamon in my tea and it would trick me because I have a wicked sweet tooth. So like I weighed 192 at one point. I got all the way down to like 157 as an adult. I was way too skinny, right? But I did it simply by tricking my body that I was eating dessert by having this flavored tea, which is what made me think about doing the dessert tea in the first place. Anyways, they're still missing the target. Back to the marketing. They should hire me with that dessert tea because I'll show them exactly how to go after. By the way, the whole Ocean Spray shit that's going on with that guy skateboarding, guess who was at Ocean Spray about 7 months ago and told them how they need to infiltrate the culture? Your boy Clinton. So it was me at Ocean Spray saying, you need to do this. Look at right now, if you get vodka and you go to vodka in the club, you're like, can I get a Ciroc? Can I get a Grey Goose and juice? There's no name associated to any of the juices, any of the clubs or bars around the world. They just say cranberry and juice. I mean, or they'll just say like Ciroc and cranberry. No one associates a name to it. I was like, right then and there, you're missing a whole fucking market where you could own that space, where people ask for,
Ciroc and
OS.
Ocean Spray. Yeah.
Like give it a name like OS, you know what I mean? Ciroc and OS, Ocean Spray. Like, so that was one thing that I was like, you guys are not talking about the health benefits for people in fitness with cranberries. It's good for your skin. You can go after the whole girl market that's using filters on the internet that's over here trying to buy Kylie makeup stuff and use that shit as a way to go after people. Then there's the health benefits, but it drives me crazy. Like you could put this cup in front of me. I can tell you how to ship it better, how to make more uses out of it, how to cut costs. It's just what I do and I can't help from doing it.
Clinton, I'm going to ask Ben to ask the last question, then I'll stop before we get Sam to give us a cook. But before we go to Mr. Ben Lee up in Costa Rica, if anyone wants to get a hold of you, I know you gave us your credentials last time. If you could just quickly tell us how's the best way for this group to get a hold of you if they want to reach out to you, or even just follow your journey.
Yeah, well, if you want to follow the journey, at Clinton Sparks on all socials, LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever. But if you want to send me something direct, Clinton@clintonsparks.com.
Perfect. All right, Ben, you've got the honor of the last question, and I know there are a bunch of other questions that were dropped in there. Sorry, guys, I'm limited on time, and his time, he's being generous, and we've gone 10 minutes over. But Ben, last question is all the way out of Costa Rica.
Thank you so much, Paul. Sorry, it's bad bandwidth today, so I'm going to be very brief. Thank you. So Magda Bracco, my friend here, she has a DJ Snake. So I don't know if you have ever run into her, Clinton, long time ago.
If I have a what a long time ago?
Have you ever run into Magda Bracco? She's my
Bracco?
friend here. We're doing some work together.
Who?
Yeah, the link is in the chat. That's it. The link is
Ben, type her name. Oh, Magda Bracco. It was a song that was DJ Snake.
What song? I can't see what he's saying.
It's in the chat. That dance.
So you want me to go to the chat and then click a link?
Ben, just give us the fucking name, dude.
Magda Bracco, I say that.
Oh, MAGA,
Puerto
MAGA
Rico,
Braco.
Paul.
I-
Costa Rica.
Oh,
No.
my gente.
Yeah. Yes. That's what he's asking. He's asking for. I guess.
What are you asking me about it?
All right. Do you
Jeez.
know MAGA Braco?
Do you know her? It's a random question, Ben, but Clinton knows a lot of people.
No, but I know some good Wi-Fi companies.
Clinton,
Well-
thank you so much. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Sorry, Rick. I know Rick and CK had a couple other questions. Michael was nice and quiet. I hope you enjoyed. I'm gonna actually stop the recording here. Thank you. First of all, thank you, Clinton, for spending time with us here and going deep in the mentor session. I can't thank you enough for spending the time with us. And I will go hit stop so I can actually stop this. Stop.